Hello everyone, I'm Alan, also known as McLaren 2009, and today I'm back playing Derail Valley. I'm picking up where I left off in my stream yesterday. I'm currently up at the goods factory. And I'm about to take a job to head down south back to the harbor. But before I do that, I need to get my locomotive set up. I'm using 2 DE6s because those seem to work the best for what I need to do. However, at the moment, there isn't a whole lot going that way. It seems the goods factory was not the place to go. Alright, so remember this, it'll be on the test. The front locomotive is connected to the back locomotive. If you stick around in the stream, keep that in mind. It won't be in that situation, in that position, the next time I actually inspect it. Alright. It'll be so cool when the simulator update comes and the breakers actually do something. But last I heard, they're saying end of June. So the very end of Q2. Alright. Now, we already know that that's the job I'm getting. I'm going to take some scrap metal to the steel mill. Oh boy. Yeah, it's like we're running scrap metal to the steel mill, but that job's not going to pay very much, and it's not going to take very long. As a matter of fact, let's see what the time bonus is for that job. 20 minutes? Alright, it's 580 tons. Instead of picking it up right now, let's just go grab it first. Now, first, let's make sure it's the right one. Oh boy. It's not the boxcars, because I brought those in yesterday. Freight Hall 3. Yep. It's these. Alright. Now, we should have the tracks aligned to head in that way. Preferably not going 18. Because that just seems like a bad idea. Even with the, it's like, even with the random bumps in the track slowing you down, that's just asking for problems. Now we're down to 5. Knock it out a little bit more. We're only running this job down to the steel mill. And then I'm assuming we'll be able to get some kind of finished product going from the steel mill to the harbor. Okay, let's fully apply the independent. Put it on forward. Go back here. Connect this to there. Grab this, grab this. If it'll let me. Turn on the air, turn on the air. And then we go over here, make sure it's all connected when the air hose spawns in. Alright, we've got air. Alright, now we'll run over to the station, turn in this job booklet, and we'll get this party started. And B3I. Sweet. We know exactly where that is. Alright, and it is 7 minutes. So we've got until 12:26 approximately to get to the steel mill. Alright, now we gotta realign our switches as the train passes by. Now, this is 600 tons, so it's not light, but it's not heavy either. Let's get this back aligned with the inbound tracks. Is that an inbound? No, that's an outbound track. Alright, whatever, not important. Realign this to come from that way. And now we'll go over to the other side by the passenger terminal, and we'll see our crane coming around the loop. Then it's going to pass by this track as it goes down the loading track, which isn't technically the through track, but since I'm literally the only one who uses this yard, it's just such a pain to route it that way and then send it around the other side on the actually designated through track. So I'm just doing it this way because YOLO, you know? So yeah, this track right here is actually the loading track, but it's directly in line with how you get out of here, so it's just best to do it this way. Because this right here is supposed to be the through track, but I just don't do it that way. Did I flip the wrong switch? Oh, that's not good. I flipped the wrong switch. Yeah, wasn't paying attention. I flipped the wrong switch. Almost sent the cars flying into the wrong train. Should have just let it correct itself with the spring on the switch to go from going right to going straight instead, but I stupidly grabbed the wrong switch, and here we are. Nothing going on at the moment. As a matter of fact, let's get that. There we go. All right. So yeah, that's the switch I was supposed to flip, not that switch. And this switch automatically flipped itself. Now I gotta wait for the train to pass by so that I can flip this switch to go back that way, because that's the best possible way to come in here. Because what I like to do in the game, I prefer to go in and past the track that I'm trying to go down, and then back up into the yard that I want to go into. So it's best to just go diagonally through the yard that way, and then pull around that loop, and then back up into the inbound track. It just makes sense to do it that way. At least it makes sense to me, anyway. Alright. Let's see, can I get onto the platform? Okay. Alright, now the switch should already be aligned to go to the steel mill. And in theory, B3I should be empty, but we won't know until we get there. But we've only got a couple of minutes. We only have to get there, and this is mostly straight aside from this S right here. Keep checking on chat really quick. Yeah, I'm hoping that when I get to the steel mill, there'll be something going back to the harbor, because I can always find decent jobs at the harbor. It's like every other place that gets questionable. We're going downhill, so we want to keep our speed contained a little bit. Even though, with that being said, we're not going all that fast. So realistically, I'm probably not going to get the safety bonus, or not the safety bonus, the speed bonus anyway. But at least hooking up to the cars and getting the train rolling with the remote saved me a little bit of time, although I lost that time by going down the wrong track. So I'm going to have to make peace with that. Oh yeah, see, we can go 50 around this corner. But why would that be a good idea? It just seems like a bad idea to go 50 kilometers an hour through a switch. Doesn't seem like a particularly sharp curve, but I wouldn't call it straight. That's for sure. Alright. Let's speed it up a little bit, but not too much until we get through both of these curves. Get across this bridge, make that left, and then we'll go from there. This should be mostly flat-ish. Now, see, according to that, we can go 80. We're not going 80, but the option's there. We might be able to get up to like 55 or 60. That seems fairly safe-ish. Hit the horn real quick. Because as dumb as it's going to sound, I like the horn. The horn is our good luck charm. You want to apply just enough throttle that your speed's going up. But dial the throttle back when you get up to what you determine to be your kind of like safe cruising speed, and then you reduce the throttle until you see your speed start to fall again. At least that's how I do it. But as we already know, I am not a train engineer. This is just what I've seen seems to work and not overheat the engines or traction motors between this and Train Sim World. Which I guess realistically I should try a multi-stream of that in the future. See how that goes. I don't generally do the multi-streaming too often, just for the simple fact that it's kind of hard on my otherwise questionable internet connection. But every once in a while it's cool to try and see how it goes. 60 seems to be the way to go. I might actually get my first ever time bonus for a long time. And that's even with doing it horribly wrong and almost slamming into empty cars. At least I hope they're empty cars. It might not be, honestly. Yeah, according to this, we're going uphill. Alright, now coming up on the left is the tutorial building where you start out. I'm still planning on doing like a full reset once Simulator comes out. I'll maintain my legacy save just long enough to get the new licenses so that I have them unlocked for sandbox mode. But after I do that, I'll delete my legacy save and just start back from square one. Alright. Nope, not that. Okay. And this is 3I right here. And 3I is empty. So if we get this thing shoved in there in the next 10 minutes, we can still get the speed bonus. Better make it 5 minutes just to be safe. And then we go over here, get this aligned back with the main. Once we're clear of the part that moves, let's switch. And is that the... Nope. Alright, the sign is... Oh, it's right there. Okay, let's slam on the brakes. And let's run in here and see if we successfully got the time bonus. Haha! The job was otherwise going to suck, but we got a couple extra thousand. 7,000, in fact. Sweet. Alright. So let's go get these unhooked. And let's find out if we got something going back south. Alright, this is where I left it. Now let's double check this. Okay, the back is still connected to the front. Alright, now let's go check on the jobs and see what we got laying around here. Anything going to the harbor? Rails? No, not that. I mean, that's an option, but no. Okay, 18 and 21. Alright, since I'm hooking up 2 different cuts of cars, I'm not even going to bother with the time bonus, so I'm just going to accept these now. And since they're both steel rails, they're going to be heavy. So we'll get this one first, and this one last. Alright, so 4 and 1. Alright, so we go forward, cut that off. This should be one of them. Yeah, there's 21, and there's 4. Or 18. Yeah, 18 and 21. These are the cars I'm taking. And it's only rails going to the harbor. Alright, so... we gotta get up to here. That actually is the right switch this time, so we don't have to worry. Alright. And the thing is, these jobs don't pay the best, but the great thing about starting at the steel mill with the tutorial is you can pretty much do all of the jobs that are here. When you start out and don't have any licenses, this is one of the easiest places to start out. Granted, a lot of the stuff is pretty heavy, but so you might need to deal with some improvised MU type stuff. But for the most part, there are short trains here. Very little in the way of like hazardous materials. There's just a lot of stuff you can do starting out. So it's probably one of the easier ones to work at. Whereas if you go to somewhere like the harbor right out of the gate, you're going to get there and find out there's not really a whole lot you can do without most of the licenses. So when you get to like the end of the game, like this current save is for me, you go to the harbor because that's where you can use your licenses. gonna take a second to fill the air in all of those cars, but we're gonna roll with it anyway. Alright, now we need this. D4. E8. Of course it is. Alright, so we gotta get to this switch right here. The last car has to clear this, and then we can get it lined up for B1. Alright. Yeah, it turns out for most applications, you literally just need a minimal reduction on the train brake. You don't need to like fling it wide open for like an emergency stop, unless you're about to collide with something, in which case go nuts. But if you're just at like a yard speed and you want to stop multiple cars quickly, just slightly crack open the train brake and you're golden. Okay. Alright, we gotta throttle up a little bit, as we appear to have hit another bump in the track. But let's not get carried away. The cars are just right there. It's interesting how this place is set up. Like, everything is set up so that you can load and unload intermodal things with the crane over there, and then you have this overhang right here where you can put like rails and beams and all that fun stuff on the cars right here, but neither of these areas are actually loading tracks. The loading for the game is done over there on the A track. It's just kind of like weird. Like, aesthetically, it looks like you would be doing all of your work over here, but the way that it's set up in the game, you do it over there. like, it would make sense if it was set up kinda like it is at the harbor, where you have the chemical loading, or the liquid loading and unloading, the intermodal loading and unloading, military loading and unloading, and then presumably there are like dry goods like boxcars. But I think with the way the game works, I think the boxcars are loaded at the intermodal loading yard, so the D track. Where is the... Huh? Huh? Is it... Okay. 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 This is weird. Okay, well, I can't tie in the brakes. Because I don't have a hose. You know, in 130 hours playing this game, I have never seen this before. Let's see if we can even move. I don't think it's gonna work because I can't release the brakes. Stop it. Alright, here's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to restart the game. Oh yeah, the hose is all messed up. So I'm going to temporarily open up my little transition screen, exit the game through Steam VR, and see if that hose that's connected to itself underneath the car. quick. Exit game. This might take a second. I guess while I'm at it, I can get a drink. All right, back in here. All right, make sure this is still working like it's supposed to. It is. All right, go back into Derail Valley. Now, leaving the game definitely messed up my remote settings. And it probably fully applied the train brake, but that's no big deal. Both engines should still be running. At least I still have my background music. But it just wouldn't be exciting if there wasn't a couple of bugs or glitches here and there. Seconds. And okay. Let me go back into here, go back to VR stream, and make sure that my chat box is back on top. Okay. Alright. Before we do that, let's run over here and get my remotes shuffled. Set the independent, release the train brake, go forward. Alright. Now, moment of truth. Gotta remember which one it is. Okay, that's good. That's good. That's good. That's good, I think. Yeah, that one's good. That's good. Alright, one of these is not coupled, but I don't know which one it is. Or at least you would think one of them is not coupled. Alright. Okay, nope. Hard reset worked. Everything's coupled. We've got air flowing to the back of the train. All is right in the world. Well, this wouldn't be one of my streams if something didn't go horribly wrong. But we do need to be on this side of the platform because all the switches are over here. And we gotta realign with B3. And then once the entire crane is past that turn off, or that switch, we can get realigned with the main again. Because I don't come to the steel mill often. Alright, that's 1, that's 2. This right here is 3. So yeah, in the last instance, the hose was acting like the brake pipe, which the brake pipe is right there. It's kind of cool to work on those, actually. It wasn't on these types of cars, but it was on the log cars that I worked on. And we had to do repairs on the pipe itself. And it was the first time I'd ever seen anybody stick weld in the factory. And it was really weird because when I learned how to stick weld, I used just normal mild steel electrodes. And because the fittings for the pipes were like cast iron, you can't just directly weld cast iron. You have to use like an intermediate material so that it actually fuses together. So what they were using were magnesium based electrodes, or steel electrodes with like a magnesium additive. And that was like the only way to get it to bond with the cast iron. I didn't personally weld with it. It was the guys who had like a lot more time than me. But seeing how much trouble they were having with it, I was glad I wasn't doing that job. It's like, nah, I'll stick to painting pipe goo onto the threads. I'm good with that. I'll go back to setting myself on fire with the MIG gun when we get back to working on the cars again. Alright, now we're going to get some use out of the 2 locomotives, because as you probably know, it's mostly uphill 2/3 of the way, or from here to about halfway back to the harbor. Alright. Let's drop that down there, because we don't need it at the moment. Turn this on. And let's look at that. Okay, back is still connected to the front. For now. Alright. Let's check on that real quick. Alright, good to go. Let's speed up a little bit because this part gets a little crazy. Yeah, that turn right there is what I was talking about yesterday. that is like a 3.4% grade. It is one of the steepest hills I have seen in this game. You will 100% get stalled there if you aren't careful. In fact, I've had some times where I was carrying slightly heavier loads, but not like insanely heavy, and you get most of the way up the hill and you think you've made it, but you haven't made it until the heaviest part of your crane gets over that hill. And I just came to a complete stop. And even going to full throttle would only cause like a wheel slip. So what you have to do in that situation is you just back up almost all the way to the farm. Come to a complete stop, let your air pressure build back up, and then throttle up until you're going at least 35 to 40. And then, it's like, then you can make that hill. There are a couple other steep ones, like up here north of the military base. But you generally only go up there after you have like your military 2 and 3 licenses. So we'll try to stay around 50 for now. Might get up to 60, but it's generally safe through here. But right about once you get to this turn is where it starts going downhill, and you, at least for me personally, I go this entire way doing like 35. Now that is painfully slow, but there's a lot of 40k zones, and you absolutely will derail and send your cars flying off of a cliff. It will not be fun for anyone. So there are parts going through here where you can go 90, here you can go 120, but it doesn't last long. Like that one says 120, but barely a couple of car lengths, this one brings you down to 100. So you kind of have to take the speed limit signs with a grain of salt and just go with what you feel is safe. And what goes into that is how much weight you have, and remember how hard it's going to be to stop. So like the same thing for me with driving trucks in real life. If you have a heavier load, for one, it's going to be really hard to go fast, especially uphill, unless you have like a really awesome truck. But once you get to the top of the hill, you're going to start to speed up really fast. Because now gravity's working for you instead of against you. So you want to reduce, you want to go into a lower gear, apply a higher notch with the engine brake. And you generally want to keep yourself slower because it's going to be harder to stop going downhill. On flat ground, heavy things don't want to move, so they'll slow down rather quickly. They'll even slow themselves down. But going downhill, gravity's making you speed up. So that's kind of fighting against that, like, natural friction where it doesn't want to move. So you can stop a heavy load in a shorter distance, but you need more braking force. It's kind of weird and hard to explain. Alright, let's kill the throttle. And more than likely we're going to coast all the way down this hill, all the way back to the harbor. The good news is that saves fuel. And it's not as loud. So even I can hear my background music. Now the question is whether or not I hit the train brake too soon. Because if all of my cars aren't over like the crest of the hill back there, the hill itself is going to help slow me down. Or the upside of the hill is going to slow me down, while the downside of the hill is going to help speed me up. So you got to be careful with the train brake. You have to hit it at the right time. And only use enough to slow you down. If you see the speed start to fall at like a reasonable rate, you can release the train brake entirely. You'll keep slowing down until your brake pressure builds back up. But because the brakes won't fully release until the pipe's back at its normal working pressure. Because as long as this is below the working pressure, the cars are applying brakes. So you'll be slowing down until this is almost full. And then you'll be back to not having any brakes applied. So it takes time for it to propagate through the train and take effect, so that you open it up, you don't immediately see yourself slowing down, but you give it a couple of seconds, wait until your speed starts to fall, then release it. And your speed will keep falling until the pressure builds back up throughout the length of the train, and then you'll start accelerating again. And then it's kind of like this give and take, like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, all the way down the hill. climbing a hill is easy. You might just end up doing it slow because of how much weight you're carrying, but going downhill is the scary part. This is the part of both the railroad and driving trucks that will kill you. This is the part you have to be extremely careful on. Now, my real experience is just with trucks. I don't work for the railroad yet. But if I'm lucky, that's coming. But since I was driving over here on the east coast of the US, we have mountains, but the Appalachian Mountains are a little bit older, so they're kind of like worn out and weathered down, so they're not as bad. And while I've seen some bad things on the road, I've been lucky and I have not seen anyone have to use one of the runaway truck ramps, nor have I had to use one myself. Whereas out in the Rocky Mountains, where they're a little bit newer, they're still really high, really steep. There are places you can't go unless you're prepared to drive through the mountains. So it's a little bit of a different experience driving out west. But one of the places that I did drive a lot was up north into like the New England area. So you wouldn't think of those areas as having too many like questionable steep hills, but they've got a few. But the thing that they definitely have is snow. So I may not have gotten all of the crazy like mountain experience as some of my counterparts out west, but I have gotten my fair share of inclement weather. And the funny part is, I only did it for a year. Again. You'll notice I'm just like barely opening it. I'm getting like a reduction in just like 1 bar of pressure in the pipe. Now it'll be interesting because with the simulator update, they're increasing it to 8 bar to make it, I guess, more realistic. Off the top of my head, I don't know the conversion between bar and PSI. I actually didn't use bar for like anything. Even in my chemistry class, some things will read out in pounds per square inch, and then the SI unit, I want to say, is kilopascals. So you would convert to that. But I've never used bar for anything. Supposedly 1 bar is comparable to 1 atmosphere, but I don't know if that's like exactly correct. And then the only time I've seen anybody refer to like atmospheres of pressure is if you're like diving. It's weird. Units of measure get a little bit odd and hard to explain. And then every industry, every field, sometimes in the same industry but different specific jobs, use different units of measurement, and it gets really weird when you're like writing papers and things that are supposed to go to like a wide audience. Because you have to make sure that your audience can read and understand your paper. So it makes it a little bit weird. And this specific part back there where most of my train is the steep part coming into the harbor. This on. And let's jump off the train real quick. I don't know why I put that away. I could have just clipped it right there. Alright, now, in order to back up the last 5 cars onto the E track, what I gotta do, or what I personally do every time I come here, you go forward, you'd make this right and head over to the liquid unloading area, so you go over to the C track. You go down the loading track because nothing is ever kept on the loading tracks. They're always empty. So you use the C track's loading track, and then you pull the entire train down there, and then back up. You get back onto the main line. But go right. And then we'll go to the E track, back these up into 8, pull forward, back up to the D track, which the good news is once we get turned around and we start backing up towards D, basically all of the things that I've had that have been going to the D track, basically, there's the loading track on the right, and then the storage and inbound tracks are on the left. And this is specifically going to the left, specifically the farthest right track on the left. So we're already set up to go that way. And as you can see, this train isn't insanely long, but it is pretty heavy. And I need to make sure this is lined up with the loading track. It is. See, the loading track is empty. However, I need to realign this switch, and that is the correct switch. I didn't just accidentally flick the wrong switch again like I did back at the goods factory. Alright, and then we'll go back over here, because we're going to have to come back this way when we go to the roundhouse to refuel the locomotives. So I want to get this set up to go back that way so that I'm facing out of the harbor so I can back into the roundhouse. It just generally tends to work better that way. Alright, we'll clear the switch. Okay. Now, in theory, we can just ride this car until it passes that switch. Why walk when you can be lazy and just ride instead? Now, I'm curious how this would work with, like, flat cars in real life. Because on things like this, there's nothing to grab onto. Like, there's no steps, no grab irons, nothing. So do you just sit on the car and not maintain 3 points of contact? That just doesn't seem safe. Who knows? Well, I mean, presumably somebody who works for a Class 1 railroad would know, but that's another thing entirely. Alright, let's jump off. Let's crack open the independent, crack open the train brake. Alright. And as you can see, we're on the loading track, and it barely even made it maybe halfway down the track. So this is absolutely the way to go. Alright, now we need this aligned to go this way. Now, the good thing about simultaneously streaming on Twitch and YouTube is I don't have to export it. But the problem is I have to manually go back and adjust the title and description for both Twitch and YouTube, and it won't do it for me. But that's like the definition of a trivial problem. Oh, and then we gotta make sure that the E track is aligned. Alright, it should be... yeah, 6 is the main. 7... 8. Yeah, we're going here. And we gotta speed up a little bit, because this switch is notorious for just messing up everything. But really, so is this one. And that one. Basically, the switches are just a mess sometimes. As much as I love the game, it does have some issues. But the good news is, those issues are known and getting fixed. It's just a matter of time. Alright, now we can get this switch lined up back to go that way, so that it's easier to come in. And then, once my locomotives are past this switch, we can align that one back with the main to go through. And the really cool thing is, here, the steel mill and City Southwest are 3 places you can refuel 2 locomotives simultaneously. They will both fit in this roundhouse, the repair shed at the steel mill, and the repair track at City Southwest. And that is both of these DE6s. I have had these for a long time. And it's because they're sequential. They get spawned completely at random, but I've had 76 forever, and then at some point I came back here to the harbor and found 77, so I was like, I'm going to tag that one on, and it's just going to be my permanent trailing locomotive. And I've just never changed. So now I intentionally go places that I can service them both, and even if it's a slow and painful process, I am keeping both of those because it's a really slim chance that I'm going to get another one in sequence with my primary locomotive. Alright, now in theory, all I have to do is get, like, the 5 cars that are going onto this track in there. But we have so much space, so why not just back it up a little bit farther? Like, all of the other cars are way down there, so why not put these closer to those? Like, the time bonus is already shot, but we knew that going in. Like, this... No, actually, no, it's one of those. Oh, it's that one. Yeah, 036. This is the last car. Like, it's already in the yard, or it's already on the track. We can just stop it right now. But I figure, why not put it back a little farther? And remember that this is the track that had the glitched out air hose. Alright, let's hit the train brake, hit the independent, release the train brake, go forward, and CFF 036. That is this car right here. Okay. Now let's go over to here, because there's the station office. Yeah. It's not going to matter in the slightest. It's supposed to take 21 minutes, it took 50. But, as we say time and time again, it be like that sometimes. And let's get this one, D4. So this switch is going to G, we gotta switch it to D. And I'm pretty sure 4 is on the left. Okay. Yeah, it's not the farthest right, but it's this one. It's lined up properly. And I have so much more freedom to use the remote here just because the caboose is here. It tacks on like an extra kilometer to the signal range. And supposedly with the realistic difficulty in simulator, they're reducing the distance that you can dash or teleport. Which would kind of suck in VR, but it's whatever. You can't teleport in real life, so the fact that you can do it at all is probably like just being nice. Alright, now we gotta get the last car past this switch right here. While we're at it, drink real quick. Okay. Alright. Not staying 10 feet away from the cars. Even though I probably should be. Like, I know from when I did all of my OSHA safety, environmental training, and all that sort of stuff, I know that the most common workplace incidents are when you're caught between something, you're pinched, you get hit with something moving. Like, that's literally the most common thing that can go wrong on a job site. And that's why you have to stay away from moving cars unless you're physically on it. But the conductor would kind of be like hanging onto the corner anyway. But yeah, you look at these, there's no, like, steps to climb up. Now, somebody who doesn't know better would look at this, like, side, like, fairing thing here and be like, well, I could step on that. But if you've been around, like, trucks, trains, any kind of heavy equipment that has panels like that, you'll know that the big companies specifically have stickers and decals, tags that say, do not under any circumstances step on that. That is not a step. The reason it's not a step is because it's just like smooth, flat steel. It's like being that sort of like thick, like either angle iron or tubing or bar stock. It can absolutely 100% hold your weight. It's just it's a smooth surface. There's not anything to like give you grip. So if it's like wet or anything like that, you'll slip on it. And if you slip, fall, break something, your company is at least partially, potentially liable to pay you for it. So to kind of mitigate that, they put labels on things saying, do not step on this. If you hurt yourself, it's completely your fault. Now, I'm not a lawyer by any stretch, so I don't know if that completely absolves it or absolves the company, but it's something to bear in mind. So when you do inevitably slip and fall, they can be like, well, we told him not to do it and he did it anyway. And now it's your fault. But as kind of like a counter argument with these specific cars, where's the correct way to do it? And the truth is, there isn't a correct way. But then again, you look at everything else in Derail Valley, and you'll be like, occupational safety in Derail Valley is like non-existent. Let's slow down for a second. Once again, it is switched. Now the front one is connected to the back one. It was fine when we left the goods factory. It was fine when we got to the steel mill. But now it's not fine. So maybe that argument about it being Schrodinger's coupling mechanism, and it's simultaneously in a superposition where it's coupled both ways, and you only differentiate when it's observed. Maybe I wasn't wrong. Maybe the coupling isn't real. The coupling is just a figment of your imagination. It might be shown as the thing you can grab and interact with, but it's not actually there. It's kind of like that scene from The Matrix when it's like it changes completely once you learn the truth. Well, what is the truth? There is no spoon. Of course, in The Matrix, they were talking about the fact that we're essentially in a video game, and the spoon isn't real. So only when you realize you're not actually holding the spoon can you bend the spoon. So by that logic, by picking up my little job booklet here, mentally I recognize that I'm holding my controller and not a paper booklet. So I guess I can telepathically, or I can use telekinesis to bend the booklet. But that's not part of the game, so don't try that. Or do, it's just you won't do anything. That's something that's kind of weird too, but that's like it's not recognizing that the button is pressed, so it's not doing anything. But that's another one of those things that, just like my mildly infuriating ongoing feud with the coupling mechanism, it's such a trivial thing that I would not expect anyone to put any amount of thought or effort into addressing it. It's just weird. My first attempt at writing a script is in Arma 3. I have 300 hours playing Arma 3. I have completed none of the campaigns, a handful of the missions, and a bulk of my time in the game is spent messing around in the editor. Now, you would think that since I'm messing around in the editor for hundreds of hours, I've built a scenario, right? No, I've tried. I had some pretty cool ideas, but I never actually completed them. And the first time that I tried writing a script, I wanted to make a scenario with a simulated airborne invasion. I wanted to have the AI jump out of a plane over a designated drop zone. That doesn't sound too bad, until you find out there's a couple steps in order to make that happen. Well, the first thing was giving the AI characters variable names, loading them into a plane. And then it didn't help that I was using a plane from a mod, so that was probably causing problems in and of itself. Then you got to get the plane to fly through a waypoint. Then you got to figure out how to get that waypoint to act as a trigger to tell them to jump out of the plane. And I spent like a good 30 hours trying to make this work, and I could not make it happen. I still haven't to this day. And then I sort of started using scripting and coding playing Stormworks. But the extent of my coding knowledge is just being able to draw things on the simulated display monitors and do some basic math. I say basic math, but there's some sort of advanced algebra, geometry, and a little bit of trig in there, making it work. And that's for things like radar displays, doing math and calculations for navigation systems. Basically, I tried making simulated versions of the stuff I worked on in real life to generally pretty good results. Helps if I turn in the job booklet. And 19,000. Basically, we barely made enough to refuel the locomotives. Actually, that's not true. I got 21,000 from the time bonus from the goods factory. So we're doing fine, but... Alright, I need to get this aligned back to 6. Because I have a feeling I'm probably going to try to make a military delivery next, which means that I'll be coming in that way. Coming down from the military base. And let's straighten this up. Let me see, am I still talking? Yeah, I can still hear me. Had this problem in the past where it sort of shorted out and my mic couldn't hear me anymore. It was really, really weird. And I was talking for like a good hour and I didn't realize I didn't have sound until I exported it to YouTube and found out that, oh, no one could hear me. I was talking about movies that I like and some resemblance of a stream schedule, but no one could hear me. Alright, so once we're past here, start hitting the independent, hit it a little harder. And not even a car length. Alright. What really gets interesting is if I'm streaming long enough that it runs out the playlist that I use for my background music. Because it doesn't automatically start over, it just stops. I'll be curious if when the simulator update comes out and we have the day-night cycle, it'll be interesting to see if when it's nighttime, I think they kind of implied that there might be penalties for using the horn. I don't think anybody's actually said that officially. I think it was it might have even just been a random comment, or it might not have even come from Alt Future. Okay. On the pad, let's go up here. Turn this off, turn that off. Turn this off. Well, I came out the wrong side, but that's the side that has a door, so that's the side you have to use anyway. And we only used a little over, or a little less than half the diesel. So not bad for carrying a sort of heavy load uphill. And not even $8,700. Now this is the part that's kind of cool. My remote is paired to this locomotive, but whatever I do to the controls in this locomotive, it also does it to the other one. So, by throttling up and releasing the independent brake, we start moving, even though this engine's off. So this locomotive is currently just dead weight. But I'm still using it to control my front locomotive. Now, another thing to look forward to about the simulator update is you won't have to do this anymore. You just back up whichever one touches the pad, plug in the fuel hose, and you're good. And then you can just turn the little dial to refuel any other locomotive in sequence. And then all is right in the world. But the way that it's set up right now, this is what you have to do. All right. Now let's go pay this off. And then we'll go run over to the military base, see if anything cool's going on over there. If we got anything nice coming out. Don't need water. Didn't do any body damage. Wheels and engine are good. And closer to $8,700. So basically just that last job was good enough to fix both locomotives, including the environmental fees that you have to pay once you get to the station office. But we'll quickly run over to the military base, see what's going on over there. If we see something cool, that's probably what I'll work on next time. If not, I'll go over to the... Oh yeah, this is definitely what we've got going on. This is the move. We've got nuclear fuel, ammunition, and a logistics haul. So basically we're going to haul them in this order. And it's going to be over $200,000 in profits. So yeah, next time we are hauling more nuclear fuel. The interesting thing about those jobs is while they're extremely heavy, they pay extremely well. And all of these jobs combined, let's see, that's 600 tons, 800 tons, call it 900 tons. Now, you're probably thinking, well, the DE6 is good for 1,400 tons. well, I don't know if you've noticed, but going up here is a little crazy. Especially right here. And sometimes in here. And pretty much all of this. And what you want to do is you want to go up this way because there's a Y intersection that's not depicted here. Except it's not like a full Y where you has like this, or it's not like a triangular junction. It's just a Y. And you have to go forward this way and then back up into the military base. Because if you go up this way, which you got to go a little bit longer, because you go right here and then you turn left and then you go around here, and you can go nose first in, but it's kind of like a dead end at the bunker. So what I prefer to do is to go up this way, turn right, go around here, and then back up into the base, because that seems to work the best for me. And then when we're up there, we'll probably get some like classified cargo, but it's all marked with biohazard symbols anyway. Basically, it's like some Resident Evil like T-virus thing, and it's kind of a mess. But that's generally what I would do at this juncture. So next time, we're going to be hauling more dangerous stuff. Today was just a run of iron and steel. Next time, it'll be a little bit more spicy. Let's go with that. And I like hauling the hazmat loads because I can talk about what I know about hazmat in real life. Whereas I can tell you about like iron and steel and all of that stuff because I was a welder. But it's not the most exciting of things to talk about, if that makes sense. So, I've been doing this for going on 2 hours now, so that's probably as good of a place to stop as any. So this has been Derail Valley. Thank you all for watching.